Hi. So my name's Sunny. I practice yoga. I practice a form of witchcraft, which I would call it natural magic rather than witchcraft. But I kind of use the word witchcraft just for general any kind of working with lunar magic, right? And magic that pertains to the sphere of the moon. Um, so I practice a form of natural magic, which I would consider to be a form of witchcraft. Um, but I also practice yoga. That's my main practice. And I also have some sort of natural shamanic abilities as well. So I'm not a Wiccan practitioner or any of the usual kind of forms of witchcraft that you see online. But I have been doing a little bit of research. Just because I've come under attack from someone that practices witchcraft, for various reasons I won't go into. They've been practicing baneful magic against me, which has caused me a lot of problems. And so I've just been like spending some time looking at YouTube videos and videos online from various kind of people that describe themselves as witches, and especially people who practice baneful magic, and just listening to what they do and what they practice and this that, and the other, and then just generally learning a bit more about other forms of witchcraft. And to me, most of the other forms of witchcraft distinguish themselves from natural magic, natural lunar magic, in that they invoke deities and stuff like that. Whereas natural magic doesn't. And yoga, the pure forms of yoga, don't involve any deity worship. You think of the oldest written system of yoga is the Patanjali system of yoga. It's a couple of thousand years old. Obviously, yoga's been practiced a lot longer than that, but a lot of the systems in India are oral lineages, not written lineages. It was 5 or 6 centuries after the reported death of the Buddha that the first teachings were written down, because it was an oral lineage. So the first written forms of yoga that we know is the Patanjali system. It doesn't include any deity worship at all. It's a bit secular practice, and that's my yoga is as well, and so is my witchcraft. There are various reasons why I don't. Anyway, I won't get into that now. So I've been doing a little bit of research on various forms of witchcraft that people practice. And I got some things to say. I just got some things to say, and one of them is on protection, right? I was hoping to pick up some good tips about protection, and I'm still watching. Obviously, I do a lot of protection. Like if you do any kind of magical practice, it's like the foundation is really protection, because you start to become aware. you're aware of like the energy and the energy that people send, and the energy that's out there, the energy that's in places. I live in an inner city ghetto, right? So the energy around here is horrific, and it's been like a century and a half of really horrible energy. So it's really concentrated. So it's like I have to do a lot to protect my flat just from the ambient energy out there, to keep it out. Otherwise, my mood will sink. I'll just sink like a stone. Anyway, so I wanted to say something about protection, and I don't want to give a video. Maybe I will at some point do a video about protection and my ideas on protection. But I just wanted to critique some of the things I've heard, right? Because I was just looking up various other forms of protection. So is there any other ways that I could protect myself against really, really strong, baneful kind of magic, right? Because baneful magic is black magic, basically. I guess I won't go into a definition of black magic. I'm easily sidetracked. So let me focus on psychic protection, right? But often in psychic protection, you're protecting yourself against baneful magic. You don't have to be a magical practitioner, right? Everybody, loads of people generate baneful magic, right? Because the kind of archetypes that people invoke for baneful magic, like Hecate and deities like that, are manifested in people, and people naturally curse other people. People naturally generate strong baneful energy without having to do any magic, So baneful energy is out there, right? One of the key practices in yoga is controlling your mind so you don't generate those energies because they're harmful energies. Lots of witches out there consider baneful magic to be perfectly natural. It's like, well, so's rape and so's murder, but it doesn't mean you practice it, right? There's reasons why you don't practice those things, and there's similar reasons why you don't practice baneful magic, despite the fact it's natural. Loads of things are natural, right? There are bacteria that eat people's faces. I don't eat people's faces, but that's natural, right? Everything out there is natural. Do you know what I mean? What else can it be? You know. But we have choices that we can make, and there's good reasons not to. So let me just do a quick critique of some of the practices of psychic defense, right? So let me share the screen, because one of the first I just typed in psychic attack, and again, like I've been practicing for over a decade, right? So I have quite extensive protection, right? So I was really looking for extra tips. I did find some good tips. There was one lady who practiced baneful magic, and she was like, "Oh, wash the windowsills and doors with something infused, with some magical herbs that for protection." I thought that's a great idea. I do have wards on all my windows and doors and everything, but I thought it was a great idea. So it would be good to get some herbs, and similarly when you're cleaning your kitchen or your floor, to use maybe soak the cleaning, whatever you use some natural herbs or some Himalayan rock salt, or put some crystals in, and just so you're really infusing the flat and really clean it and protecting it. I thought that was a great idea, not one I thought of before. So that's something I've incorporated. Anyway, let me critique some of the standard forms of psychic protection, and there was one in particular that I came across. So let me just briefly share my screen with you, and this was from the College of Psychic Studies. Right? I've never heard of them before, but looks like a well established college. So I'm going to share it with you. Right? So this is the College of Psychic Studies, and it's like they just start asking what's a psychic attack, and I don't really agree with their definition either. What a psychic attack is, just generally, what was a psychic attack? Well, anyone generating any kind of harmful energy towards you that affects you in some way. Usually, you'd call it a psychic attack if it's really affecting your mental health, right? But technically, it's a psychic attack if it's doing anything. If you like I had to buy a new necklace a couple of months ago because I went out one day and I came back in and it had just gone. And that's a psychic attack. That was due to psychic attack, right? It's just a baneful energy hitting me, and it causes all kinds of problems in your life. And so things that are quite important to you and that are key to my protection and raising my energy are targeted by baneful influences. That's a psychic attack. A nuisance one, because it's taken away a critical layer of defence, and it's also costing me money. It's £50 or £60 to get a new one, and I'm not a wealthy individual, So a psychic attack often is just taken to mean anything that's really profoundly affecting your mental health, and a psychic attack can destroy you as a person, right? It can kill you. Like baneful magic can kill you, but a psychic attack can kill you, can destroy you. If you look for one of the sort of most popular, well-known books on psychic self-defense is Psychic Self-Defense by Dion Fortune, right? And in the introduction to that, she talks about her own experience briefly, and she introduces the idea of psychic attack to the reader and distinguish it from various forms of mental health and physiological problems and so on and so forth. And then she talks about her own experience. She was this was an experience with someone, because often people generate really harmful energies in order to control people. If you're in a competitive environment like a corporation where people kind of trample on each other to get to the top, you're going to be under psychic attack all the time, because that's how people crush other people's lives and get up there, climb that ladder, So they'll generate baneful energy. Well, it's not necessarily baneful energy, but often it is baneful energy. But they'll generate any kind of harmful energy, to kind of out of jealousy or so on and so forth. So psychic attack really is an energy generated by someone to harm you. in some way, and that actually affects you. If it doesn't affect you, it's not really attack, but it affects you. And usually it affects you by bringing misfortune into your life or causing ill health, whether mental or physical, and usually mental. So usually it affects you with mental. You have to be sensitive. Most people won't necessarily be able to know if misfortune or things happening in their life is down to psychic attack. You have to be sensitive to be able to pick that up. You have to have some sensitivity. Because if you're sensitive, you'll pick up imagery of an angry face, someone's and you'll recognise the face. And that fucking toe rag is sending you some bad juju. And you can maybe take steps to protect yourself against that individual. But most people aren't sensitive like that. So let's look at what the College of Psychic Studies says, because I see this all the time, and I just think, this is really poor advice, and I think people don't have a proper conception of how to protect themselves psychically. So let's just have a little look, right? So okay, blah 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 blah. They come all the way down to the bottom, and they say how to protect against psychic attack. So if you follow my mouse, you can see there my mouse is waving around. How to protect against psychic attack, right? So this is the bit where they talk about. So they say two things, right? So establish a psychic shield, right? Okay, that's a very good idea. You want a powerful aura, right? The first sort of thing about psychic attacks, make sure you got a really strong aura. So you've got a really strong energy body, right? So that's a lifestyle thing. That's what you eat, how you practice, how you think. What crystals you use, and so on and so forth. Like a really strong aura. If you think of psychic energy, like people generate a really focused, hateful energy towards it. It's like a bullet, right? If you've got a really strong aura, that bullet will just boom stick in the aura and ain't going to penetrate into anybody where it's going to cause problems, right? It could be basically a really focused harmful energy like a projectile, and your aura, your energy body your aura is like a skin, a thick skin. And if it's strong, then it's not going to be easy to penetrate. You remember that aura has layers, like a mental layer, like an emotional layer, right? So you're emotionally strong, you're mentally strong, your aura will be too, and so it'll really protect you against attack. But those energies will lodge in your aura. It's not enough just to have a strong aura. You've got to bloody get rid of them, right? Because if that energy is lodged in your aura, right, at present it might not be able to penetrate. But you get a right transit, and it might be months, might be stuck there for months or maybe years, right? Until the right transit comes along, astrological transit, it can suddenly penetrate because the energy potentials have shifted, So you've got to have practice to get rid of that. But anyway, I wanted to critique this. So this first bit is fine, okay? Like a good way to establish a psychic shield, positive affirmations, prayers, self-blessings, generally positive inner dialogue. Okay, basically, if you're doing something that generates positive energy, a strong, well, do you know what? I wouldn't even say that. I would critique this because I would think, well, hold on, if you're developing a strong positive energy, why is that going to protect you specifically against psychic attack, right? You might say, well, because it gives you a strong aura. Well, I don't know that generating strong positive energy is necessarily going to give you a strong aura. So I'm not so sure about this, right? But it's got at least some basis to it, in the sense that, well, if you're generating an energy and it's like it stays in your aura, because like you can do all these positive affirmations. What makes you think that's going to stay in your aura? Why is it not going to dissipate, right? So I'm not sure about that. Prayers, self blessings, and generally positive self inner dialogue. It's not going to protect you against psychic attack, right? People do not understand psychic attack if they think a positive inner dialogue is going to protect them, any more than a fucking gun pointed at your head and pulling triggers. A positive inner dialogue isn't going to protect you against that, right? What they don't understand is the reality of these energies, okay? That these energies are just as real as bullets. If I put a gun to your head and pull the trigger, that's a psychic attack, right? How are you going to protect yourself against that? Well, you can learn self-defense, right? Or you can wear some kind of Kevlar gear, right? But positive inner dialogue isn't going to do it. If somebody really focuses a hatred, malice against you, right? Positive inner dialogue is not going to freaking do it, because it's like someone having a gun at your head and pulling a trigger. That focused energy generated is going to boom straight into you and cause untold damage, right? To you psychically, emotionally, and or possibly in your life. Like why it actually does, I don't know. But if it penetrates your aura into anybody, it will affect your life, right? So like positive affirmations, prayers, self-blessings doesn't work against psychic attack. It doesn't work. If you want to kind of lift your mood a little bit, okay, that can work, right? But if you're under heavy psychic attack, that's not generating enough energy, right? Because like I said, someone's out there generating huge amount of hate. Let's imagine, I don't know, like you meet a girl, right, and you start going out there and you fall in love and you get together, but you hadn't realised, right, that actually she was going out with someone, or she was in the process of finishing with someone, and that person has taken umbrage against you now, and their life is nosedived, right, and they're living in misery and they're on their own, and their life is crashed. Maybe they lost their job as well, and they've gone homeless, right? And they blame you for it. So they're going to generate tremendous negative energy towards you, hatred and envy, you know, because they're envious of you. You got a girlfriend, right? That's a tremendous amount of energy, right? You're just doing some positive affirmations. What's that going to do? It's like someone's got a machine gun and they're like, how are you going to protect yourself, right? You need some badass tools to protect yourself against that, and people today are extremely negative. You don't have to do a lot for them to generate a huge amount of negativity towards you. They may just take umbrage towards you because they don't like the look of you, and they can generate a huge amount of negative energy. I've had that before, where I've had really powerful energetic projectiles lodged in my energy body from people who I've just met at a festival or at an event. Briefly, they were on a stall and they've taken umbrage at me, and they've just generated huge amounts of negativity, hatred and malice, you know. Obviously, what I represented to them, I don't know, but I represented something that they freaking hate, right? If you're ethnic and you go through a city centre, you're going to get loads of hatred, because there's a lot of racist people out there that take umbrage at you being here, right? And that can be a lot, right? So like ethnic people can be under a lot of psychic attack all the time. I know, because I'm half Indian, and I was brought up under a lot of attack from the white community that surrounded us. You know, our home was under attack. Stones get thrown. People come out of the house, throw eggs in my face, right? Telling me to get lost, go home. You know, do you know what I mean? The current, so you need to be generating powerful energy to ward off that kind of psychic attack. You need powerful methods. This stuff isn't going to work, right? And the next thing they say is even worse, right? You can also imagine you're in a protective bubble or an impenetrable spacesuit. Perhaps you're wearing a cloak of pure positivity. Nothing can enter beyond this shield unless you're allowed. All right. So, like, someone's got a gun pointing at my head, and I'm just going to sit there and say, I'm surrounded by a cloak of impenetrable metal, and no bullet can penetrate this, right? Is that going to work? No. The guy pulls the trigger and my head gets blown off, right? It's the same with psychic attack. These energies are real. They have energy behind them, right? If you're going to protect yourself against them, you have to generate an equal amount of energy. So, like, if you're doing positive affirmations or something, well, you need to be specifically to protect yourself against that, right? And maybe you're generating a huge amount of positive affirmations, so you're sweating with it. If you're generating a huge amount of effort, okay, I can see that's working, because you're generating a lot of energy, right? And that's what you need to be doing. You cannot protect yourself against psychic attack without generating energy. Now, just going into an office and picking up some negative energy, okay, and your mood dropping, okay, some positive affirmations might work against that. It's mild, very mild stuff, right? But that's not the kind of psychic attack you need to worry about. That's fairly straightforward, right? If someone's complaining about psychic attack, it's not because the office that they work in has a sort of bad atmosphere, right? It's usually because, say, like the boss or a colleague has targeted them out of hatred, you know, or somebody else in their life has, you know, like DM Fortune, like I said in the introduction to Psychic Self-Defense, which is a classic kind of book on self-defense, you know, psychic self-defense. Talks about how she had a complete breakdown due to this person. I think it was at when she was a sort of learning her occult studies. Oh no, it was even before then, and she was like in some kind of workplace, and there was really controlling, dominant woman, you know what I mean, who just and controlled people really, but she would generate a huge amount of oppressive, negative energy and just crush people like that, destroy them if they got in her way. You know, lots of people like that in the world, right? Loads of them. It's quite common. And she had a severe breakdown as well. She was, you know, ill for days, weeks, and you know, it took her a long time to recover. It's one of the defining events of her life. You know, just before she became a student of the occult. You know, and before she understood what had actually happened. You're not going to overcome that kind of psychic attack through these methods. They're just totally inappropriate. People who teach this do not understand psychic attack, right? These energies are like bullets and projectiles. They penetrate your aura and they can blow fucking your energy body to pieces and just devastate your life, right? And the energy body isn't quite the same as the physical body. If your energy body gets hit, some area of your life will be affected. You know, like it might be your work, it might be your car, or your leisure area, or your social life, or something, right? Some area of your life will be hit. So when I talk about them as projectiles, it's not the same as a physical projectile, which just impacts the body and affects the function of the body. Energy attacks are projectiles, but they impact on the energy body, right? So this is kind of that will could affect your health, could affect your body, but mostly it's going to affect some part of your life or relationships and so on and so forth, right? And bring devastation to that. Can bring total devastation. Can kill you, right? Just like a bullet can. So in order to protect yourself against that, you need to be generating huge amounts of energy, right? You can't just sit there and imagine you're wearing an impenetrable bubble of positive energy. That's not going to do shit. It's not going to do shit. Not going to do a damn thing to protect you against psychic attack. And the people who think it is are just not practitioners. They don't have an awareness of what they're dealing with, right? Now there are some exceptions, right? So you might do a prayer, for example, to a deity, and now deities have a pool of energy available to them, right? Because loads of people give devotion to deities. So you make a prayer to a deity, say, "Oh, I need protection, can you help me?" Then yes, a deity has a pool of energy that it could use to protect you. So that could work, right? But you see what I mean? Like, you know, if you're a good devotee of that deity and that deity is taking a shine to you or whatever, then you know, maybe that will work. You know, you know, it can work. You know, people do get protection from deities, no question about it. You know, and loads of people do that, and so that is a good method. You know, but then the energy is being generated by other people, right? So someone has generated that energy that you are then receiving. So my point is, it requires considerable energy to overcome psychic attack, and I'm talking about a serious psychic attack, not just someone having a bad opinion of you, right? It's mild, or just you come across some negative energy. Like we all, everywhere you go, right? This whole neighbourhood I live in is a pool of freaking negative energy, right? I can deal with that. I don't really get, and it does attack me. Right? I do have to keep it at bay, you know. But that's still mild compared to the kind of negative energies that people can generate when they focus at you, and especially if they're a practitioner and they're using baneful magic, right? That's really a really powerful, malicious form of magic, you know, that I don't get involved in, because you're dealing with influences. you're whether you know it or not, when you practice baneful magic, you are making a compact with malevolent influences, and that has fucking repercussions for your soul, man, and your evolution and where you're going to go in life, right? So that's what people who promote baneful magic don't realise. They say, oh well, it's not evil, oh it's not this, not that. Well, and there's no such thing as good and evil, you know. There's lots of evil in nature. It's just natural, right? And there's no such thing as karma. Well, you're getting involved with baneful influences, right? Those are not influences that are particularly loving, right? They're not known for their loving, kind, compassionate nature. You are getting involved with them. You are manifesting their influence. When you practice their magic, you are manifesting, literally embodying their energy. So you archetypally become one with them, right? That is going to totally change the direction of your evolution as a soul, right? And the idea that that's not going to bring you into a state of suffering is not true, right? Just look at the histories and the practices associated with some of the deities that people invoke to do baneful magic, like Hecate, or people or deities like that, right? They're not known for their loving kindness and compassion, often depicted with talons and fierce beaks, right? Quite murderous energies, and often associated with prostitution and this, that, and the other. Now I've got to be careful. I don't want to start incurring the wrath of all the practitioners out there. If you want to do that, it's your business, right? Loads of people love it and they get involved in it and they'll have a happy life and they'll have nothing bad happen to them. But it will affect their future lives. There's no question about that. You know, as to when the effects will ripen, who knows? But it will affect their future lives. Those deities are not deities you should get involved with. You know, they don't bring happiness into the world. In yoga, in Patanjali's system of yoga, such deities and the kind of minds that humans manifest as they embody these deities are known as kleshas, right? They cause suffering and problems in the world, right? Often people will practice baneful magic thinking that they're doing it to protect someone. Oh, that person's a child abuser, I'm going to practice baneful magic and curse of us. You're not doing any good in the world by doing that, because you're manifesting a mind that brings child abuse into the world, right? The very archetypal influence that manifests child abuse in the world is the same influence that manifests baneful magic. So if you're using baneful magic to try and stop a child abuser, it's silly, right? You're manifesting a type of mind that brings that kind of harm into the world. So ultimately you're not doing any good, you know. But so to go back to protection, right? So you can invoke a deity. I don't invoke any deities, right? I don't get myself involved in deities. So I practice natural magic, and I don't consider deities to be natural. Deities are things that people generally worship, right? They kiss their butts, right? I don't do that. Why would I want to do that? I'm not interested, right? I have self-respect, I have dignity, I have integrity, right? I in yoga you manifest the self, right? If you need some quality or some this, that, the other, you go through a period of devotion, you manifest that yourself, right? So these methods to protect yourself psychic attack are not going to work, right? And I came across another guy online the other day. I was just put into YouTube, like, you know, psychic attack or baneful magic, looking at it, and I come across this one little video of this guy saying, hey, this protection against baneful magic. So I thought, okay, let's have a look at this. It's like a 10-minute video. This guy's all suited up in fancy kind of wizardy kind of dress, you know, looking the part, crystals hanging off his necklace and all this stuff, and he's going for all these kind of hand movements. So if you've come to this YouTube video, then the universe has brought you to me to get protected from baneful magic. So I thought, okay, that sounds good. I'm interested. All you have to do is say, I will allow this guy to protect me, and then I'll do my thing. Right? I thought, well, no, I'm not going to say that. I don't know who you are. I don't know what kind of influences you have manifested in your life, or how you live your life. So I'm not going to say yes to anything. All right, that's a stupid thing to do. Who's going to promote that kind of practice? It's a bad practice, right? I don't trust you. I don't know you. I'm not going to say yes to anything you say. And anyone that says that, I'd immediately think, well, they don't know what they're doing, right? I'm not going to establish a rapport with anyone that I don't know, a magical rapport with anyone I don't know, not in a million years. Who knows what influences are going to be channeling through that freaking bridge head that's established, right? No, thank you. And then he did his thing. And it was just silly. It was just silly. Right? He's doing all these kind of blah blah. Now, for sure, right? Hand mudras can be powerful. I've seen practitioners who have trained for years do mudras in a really magical, and it's magic, right? It weaves something. It's like, wow. This guy wasn't one of those. This guy was just literally just flapping about, really, you know, and it's just like silly, you know. And I thought, well, that's not going to protect you against baneful magic. Baneful magic is really freaking powerful, right? Let me give you an example. Like Gerald, I think he's the guy who started Wicca. It's called Gerald Gardner, right? And he did so I'll give you an example of like sort of things that Wiccans do and the amount of energy they can generate through baneful magic. Now this wasn't, as far as I'm aware, this wasn't baneful magic. Well, I don't actually know. But it's a sort of anecdote that I heard someone else talk about one time, and it stuck with me, because it was during the Second World War, right, when Britain was under threat of invasion from Hitler, and so he got together with his circle, his coven, and they spent like days in the woods doing this ritual to stop Hitler, focused on Hitler, to stop him from issuing commands to invade Britain. And I don't know how long they did it for. It may have been weeks, it may have been days, I don't know. But like, they generated so much of, they gave so much of their own life force to that. The sum of the people collapsed and were close to death and were ill for weeks. You know, that's the amount of energy they're generating into that ritual. Right? It's a huge amount of energy. Right? Yeah. If someone is generating that kind of energy against you in a baneful ritual, you're not going to defend yourself against that with some positive affirmation. You just get blown away. It's like a shotgun. Right, you need something powerful to protect yourself against that, you know. I'm not going to say what you need to do. I'll do a separate video on the kind of protections I do. But really, if someone's generating a lot of harm towards you, ultimately it's going to penetrate and it's going to cause damage, right? If you've hacked off some kind of Wiccan practitioner to the point where they're going to do baneful magic against you, you're not going to be able to really stop it. It's going to impact you in some way, right? It's going to cause you damage. You can minimize it. Just like if you're you could be a black belt, right? You could be a badass fighter. But if you've pissed someone off, like let's say you've slept with a wife, right? And you screwed around with her, and now the guy's after you. Right? Even if he's not a trained fighter, he's mad as hell. He's going to cause you damage. You might put him down eventually, but he's going to cause you damage nonetheless. It's going to bloody hurt you, right? And even if he doesn't do it the first time, he'll come back and he'll come back. And next time he'll come back with a baseball bat maybe. So it doesn't matter how well you've trained, you know, and maybe he'll jump out at you. Do you know what I mean? So it's going to cause you damage. And similarly, baneful magic is like that, right? You might protect yourself for a while and think, phew, it's over now, and you'll stop. And boom, it'll hit you, right? It's just waiting there, looking to pounce on your ass. But as soon as there's a teeny gap, poof, it'll hit you, you know. It's like that, you know. You literally have to wear it fucking down and attack it. You have to attack it and wear it down and destroy it energetically. And that you can be pouring in sweat, right, for the effort of having to do that, right? And in yoga, you develop siddhis to enable you to do that. So you're able to generate the prana yourself to actually attack the bloody thing. So firstly you develop the sensitivity so you can perceive these things, right? These energetic attacks, and then you generate really fiery prana that you can destroy the damn thing. And you can be pouring in sweat to generate, and it might take you weeks of effort, night, freaking day, to destroy baneful magic. It's powerful, right? Most people are not going to be able to protect themselves against it. And these techniques are rubbish. Absolute rubbish. They're not even going to work against a normal person generating negative energy against you. It's not going to protect you against that, right? It's a good way just to look after your own mood, right? But it's not going to protect you against psychic attack. So the thing you've got to have in your mind is a conception of the lunar realm, right? And of the reality of psychic attacks. If you think of psychic attack as someone shooting bullets at you, but these bullets are projectiles made of mental or emotional energy, and they will penetrate your aura. The first thing and hit your energy body and strike you. They could cause psychic death instantly, right? Where you just have a breakdown straight away. Boom, done. Or they might lodge in your aura if your aura is quite strong. And you know, most people's auras today are not strong because they eat junk food, they don't exercise, they're chowing down sugar and junk food, their diet's not right. You know, people don't have an understanding of Ayurveda. In the West, the understanding of food is primitive, right? The West considers itself advanced, but its understanding of things is primitive. It says of food is just protein, carbohydrates, vitamins, minerals. No, it's nonsense. That's the physical component about food. What about the lunar? That's the solar component of food, right? The physical components. What about the lunar component of food, right? It's actually, food is imbued with energy. And that energy has an intentionality that's going to do something to you, right? Ayurveda is the yogic science of food, where you understand, right, what you eat is vitally important, because what you eat changes who you are. It has an effect upon you. You know, if you're eating non-organic food grown by fossil fuels, well, those are people who are using and abusing the earth for their own benefit, right? That's a really nasty energy. It's a really abusive energy. It's just a user. It's like using someone, right? You're eating that food. That's the kind of person you are going to become, but you won't notice it because those kind of views and attitudes are legitimised by everyone around you. You know. But that's why we've got so much environmental destruction around, you know. Everybody's there, you know, and it leads to people who use and abuse each other, you know. So the Western understanding of food is primitive, you know, but so understanding the lunar realm is critical, and having a conception to understand psychic attack is important, because that way you avoid being taken in by really poor methods like this that are simply not going to work against psychic attack. They're not going to work. So let me just shut this down and I'll finish off. Okay. Display capture. Just get rid of that. There you go. I'll make myself big again. Boop. So yeah. So like, yeah, psychic attack. So you got to think of it. So don't So if you're under psychic attack, you need, and you're not a practitioner, right? Or you're not wise to these things. You're gonna need someone to help you, right? And most people aren't even going to know they're under psychic attack. Most people go through breakdowns in their life and they're not aware that was caused by the neighbour or someone or a work colleague, right? Because they're just not aware of the lunar realm. These things are invisible to them, right? And they're taught in this culture that can't happen. If you've had a breakdown, no, it's because of stress or this and the other. And if someone is generating hateful energy towards you, it doesn't affect you, because that is just, people think that the energies they generated are just generated in the body. They don't realise that they have an objective existence, right? Obviously, if you're a practitioner, then you do. That's the whole basis of magic, right? That you recognise the reality of the lunar realm, that there's this hidden, unseen world that our senses, ordinary physical senses, don't perceive, right? But that we have an energy body, and you can develop that energy body to develop senses and abilities in the lunar realm that enable you to see this otherwise hidden world, right? Or some people are just born into the world with those abilities due to past lives or other reasons, Someone generating psychic attack is pooling, there's got energy behind it. In order to protect yourself, you have to oppose that with an equal and opposite amount of energy, right? And ideally more so you can destroy the thing. And that's what you want to do. Now, so any practice then where you're not generating energy, right, isn't going to work. There are some exceptions to that, and that's where other people are generating that energy, right? So you might turn around and say to your local spiritual group or Christian group, hey, I'm under psychic attack from an evil influence. Can you say some prayers or generate some goodwill for me? And they might do that, right? They might have a gathering. And that could be a lot of goodwill. That could be a huge amount of energy, and that could work, right? And that you don't have to do anything then. You're tapping into what they're doing, You might use crystals. Loads of people out there generate prayers for peace and send out goodwill to help others, right? When you use crystals to protect yourself, you're tapping into that. The crystals tap into that energy, right? And so that can protect you, really strengthen your aura, so that things don't penetrate, So those are practices you can do where you yourself don't have to generate a lot of energy, right? But how do crystal or you might do a ritual to a deity and say, hey man, can you help me out, give me some energy and protect me, But basically you enter into an agreement or combat with a deity. And personally, I wouldn't, right? All of the deities out there are all dodgy. They all have a dodgy side, right? They're, as far as I'm concerned, not to be trusted. Look at the stories of, pick a deity, any deity, look at the stories and you'll see all kinds of horrible evil being done in that deity's name, right? Don't do this. Unnatural, right? We have our own self. We have our own abilities we can tap into and generate and manifest, right? Don't need to rely on deities. So. And my advice is not to. But people who do, and now it's common, most people do, right, rituals to deities, or they send prayers out to deities. That can work, right? The deity might, for whatever reason, send some energy away and protect you, right? Our crystals can work, so there are things you can do where you don't have to generate the energy yourself, right? To protect yourself, like Dion Fortune gave a brilliant one in psychic self-defense. She just related it as a brief kind of anecdote of like, if someone has sent an intentional energy against you, right, there are ways you can mask yourself in the lunar realm so that intentional energy can't find you. It's like, oh, where's he gone? So you don't necessarily have to generate a lot of energy to do that. And one natural way to do that is just to walk over running water, like a stream or a river, right? Because that How it does it, don't know, right? But somehow running water, and obviously it's really polluted, it's not going to work very well. So you want it kind of pure, clean. It's hard to find these days, probably, you know. Although in the UK, the river's not doing too badly, although they are starting to get more polluted again after being cleaned up, you know. But going over running water, you know, and if it's fast and big, then the better, you know. Somehow helps to mask it. I know because I do it myself all the time. Like during new moons and full moons, I tend to go over running water just as a cautionary thing. But it's not invulnerable. Like if there is a lot of bad energy out to get you, and it's got your name on it, so someone's specifically aimed it at you, and they've really generated it with great ferocity. So I intervene in domestic abuse situations, right? Where women are being domestically abused, right? So I come under huge amounts of negative attack from the males who just take umbrage at me because I am helping to protect their women and get them out of those situations, right? So I come under a lot of energetic attack, and I know, like, firstly, you can't stop it. There's nothing that's just going to snuff it out. It's going to impact you in some way, but you can pacify it. And going over running water is one way to do that, you know. And again, it doesn't totally work, but it just acts to pacify. And I have a load of different practices that I do that just pacify it. But even then, I still get hit a lot, right? Because people can generate a lot of hateful energy, you know, they really can. They're just that's what their minds are like. That's the kind of those are the kind of influences that manifest. They get their way in the world by destroying other people psychically or by controlling other people. When people don't do what they want, they destroy that fucking mind, and so you end up with an obedient person controlled by the other person. And any time the person generates a mind that tries to assert itself, that mind is destroyed by the person. That's psychic attack, right? That's quite common to see. That's what a lot of relationships are out there. You know, it doesn't matter how friendly they appear on the surface. In the lunar realm, things can be very, very different. Right? Get very ugly. You know. So I'll stop there. I just wanted to give a brief kind of overview of that because I see that all the time, and people saying, "Oh yeah, just visualize a shield of positive energy," and it's not going to do shit against psychic attack. People don't understand the reality of these things at all, right? Psychic attack is just like a gun, right? If someone is generating a lot of strong negative energy, it's like a gun. Pull the trigger, right? You don't protect yourself against a gun by imagining a shield of metal around you. It doesn't work, and it won't work against psychic attack either, right? You actually have to do something to counter that energy and to destroy it, or at the very least to prevent it from penetrating your aura, right? So building a strong aura is a foundational practice, really important, right? And that involves diet, lifestyle, and controlling your mind, so on and so forth, right? Because that's one of the most powerful ways you can protect yourself, right? There's not, but it involves radical lifestyle change. You know, you avoid all the processed shitty foods, for example. Food is the main way you're going to build a really strong aura. You know, I get most of my food from the land, right? I'm involved with the organic vegetable farms, so I get most of my food. So that's a really powerful food. It gives me a really strong aura, and it gives me powerful roots in the land, right? So my aura is like the bark of a tree. You can shoot bullets at it and whatever. So that's kind of my aura is really strong. But even so, things penetrate, you know, because people are freaking maniacal out there. You know, they really are generating huge amounts of negative energy, you know. And so things can still penetrate, you know, but it has to be really a lot of negative energy. And it's usually coming from someone you know. It's why you have to be careful about people you know. If you establish a rapport with someone, like a friendship, that's a bridge, right? And if that person happens to be bad and they generate psychic attack to control you, well, you've opened a bridge to them. They have access to your energy body, right? So they can bypass your defences. That's why you be very careful who you establish a rapport with. So when that guy in the video says, "Oh, just say yes," and I said, "No way, I don't know you." You know, that's a good way for some charlatan to get other people to establish a rapport with their energy bodies and use that control of them. That's common in India. Gurus, malevolent gurus posing as malevolent individuals with psychic and magical capabilities, posing as gurus, looking for people to subdue and whose energy bodies they want to parasitize so they can draw their energy off, right? Well, first of all, develop a rapport through doing things like that, quite common. Or laying hands on them saying, "Oh, I'm going to heal you." "No, don't touch me." "I don't know who you are, so don't touch me." You know, that's the appropriate response to anyone who wants to lay hands on me. "Don't touch me, I don't know who you are," right? I know the kind of energies that people can generate through their hands, right? I don't know who you are, or what kind of influences you've got on your body, or what you eat, or what you do, and you probably aren't even aware. Most people who do hands-on healing aren't even aware of the kind of influence they have, or these kind of problems, right? So they're even worse. You don't want them touching your body, because who knows what influences they're gonna transmit to you by it. Just look at the law of India, of what people experience when magical practitioners touch them with their hands, right? Look at the law on druids, when the druid had a staff with a crystal, right? When they touched the person, they could achieve radical effects, could cause someone to just be knocked out onto the floor, right? Powerful energies can be transmitted through laying on of hands or through something else, especially if it's a magical practitioner. Don't let people touch you, don't buy into that. Anyway, I'm rambling on a bit, right? But the basic gist was, hey, psychic attack, right? First of all, yeah, there's preventative, right? Just like I'm saying, don't allow people to touch you if you don't know who they are, especially if they claim to be magical. Here, so well, I don't know who you are. I'm not going to let your energy come into my body. So I don't know. I don't want to establish a rapport with someone whose nature I don't know. Do you know what I mean? So and I don't mean like if you meet someone in the street and shake your hand, of course you're going to shake their hand, right? That's fine. I don't. But I mean, talk about people who claim to be able to channel energies. Well, I wouldn't let them touch me. No chance, right? You got to know what kind of energy you're dealing with before you allow that energy to your body. As someone who says on a video, I'm a healer, just say yes to my healing energy. No, I don't think so, mate. I've seen that one before lots of times. I ain't buying into it. The person may well be not ignorant. They may not be aware, but it doesn't mean they're genuine. It doesn't mean they're not being used by malevolent influences. So like there is a standard sort of way to protect yourself, which is just preventative, and then making your energy body strong. But either way, you've got to generate a lot of energy to protect yourself against psychic attack. So these things that just say visualize that you're surrounded by love, it doesn't work. It won't work, So have a good model of the lunar realm and understand the psychic attack like a gun to your head, someone trying to kill you, is a murderous energy, and it will seek to try and destroy you, part of your life, and it may seek to try and kill you. If someone has actually generated that murderous energy, it will seek to kill you. But mostly, often people are just sending malice out, so they just seek to do harm to that person. But again, it's like a gun or a dagger, right? How are you going to protect yourself against that? Well, you're going to have to invest a lot of energy to deal with it, right? You can't just imagine a wall of protection. It doesn't work that way. Anyway, I'll stop there. All right. So I'm probably going to do a few videos. This is the first one. I just thought, okay, I want to do a video. I want to talk about this. So I'm probably going to do a few on various aspects of sort of the lunar realm, magic, witchcraft, and all that. Because I see a lot of misconceptions out there. I want to talk about baneful magic and the reasons why you shouldn't do baneful magic. I want to talk about rituals to deities and the reason why you shouldn't do rituals to deities, right? And I want to talk about a lot of stuff in Wicca and witchcraft that's considered normal, and I want to critique it and say, hey, these are the reasons why you don't do these things. I want to give a higher wisdom, what I consider a higher wisdom, which is the wisdom of yoga, which is the wisdom you get from practicing yoga. And I just want to share that with people. Whether people want to watch it or not is their business, right? But I'm just going to share it. Alright, take care.